you would think that it is a far-fetched happening, but it happens right here, anywhere, right in your neighborhood, by your doorstep. It could be your father, your uncle, your neighbor, even your mother, grandpa, friend. Traffic, but I mean no vehicle. Heinous crimes performed by sick minds on unsuspecting people. Poor souls with their lives and smiles snuffed away, haunted by memories of imprisonment by seductive figures, beasts who keep them wrapped, bound.
Well, that was just a snippet from fifth form St. Anthony College student Yohan Barrington, which is now available on YouTube and also on CNN's social media sites for the My Freedom Day project. The project seeks to bring awareness to the serious issue of human trafficking and was highlighted yesterday on CNN's platforms. Well, we're joined by three guests to tell us how this all came about, including the young man himself, Yohan Barrington, whom we are told only just got into poetry, and we'll get some more on that. We also have with us, of course, a proud principal of St. Anthony's College, Maurice Inniss, and as well with us is Christian Paul, the NALIS librarian, and he's an SAC Poetry Club trainer, so he's going to give us some context to that as well. So good morning to all. Thanks very much for joining us. Yohan, congratulations on this particular effort. Tell us how you feel about this now that you see your work being highlighted on CNN, on YouTube. You're probably the biggest thing in school right now. Good morning to you, Yohan. Congratulations.
Good morning, sir. Thank you very much. I feel very excited and glad that I get this opportunity to at least spread a spotlight and highlight these issues in society that not many people actually know how it affects people, you know.
And before we move to our other guests, tell us how this came about. How did it happen that you first got the idea of making a submission for the CNN My Freedom Day project?
All right. Well, as you said before, I only recently started writing and performing spoken word poetry, and with the help of Mr. Paul here, he guided me into the CNN Freedom Day project, and I was intrigued by it and eventually partook in it.
Okay, so let's hear, before we hear from Christian Paul, let's hear from the principal of St. Anthony's College, Maurice Inniss. Mr. Inniss, very good morning to you. Thanks very much for joining us. You must be a very proud man right now.
Morning, Fazir. Extremely proud. It is always good to see when our students can rise and perform openly. It's good that they could find their voice here, especially in the context of things that go on in society.
And what does that represent to you as principal of the school to see a student, Form 5, 16 years old or around that age, having that level of awareness, that level of consciousness, to wanting to speak out on issues of human trafficking and all that sort of thing?
It tells me a lot about his, and I want to say male education indeed, but it's good to see Yohan's maturity and to be highlighted now. So it says to me that these boys are maturing in time as they're going out to society, and that they are able to lead and have a voice.
So Christian Paul, congratulations on your own role in this particular contribution by Yohan Barrington, and the fact that it's now been highlighted by CNN, and of course there'll be greater attention as more and more people become aware of Yohan's contribution. Tell us about your own role in this. Good morning to you.
Well, basically, I must first give some very much commendations to Mr. Jonathan Bagan. He's the chairman of the Caribbean Committee Against Sex Crimes, and he's very much involved in working against gender-based violence and human trafficking. So he was contacted by the CNN Freedom Project coordinator to bring together Caribbean organizations to make a strong statement against human trafficking. So the St. Franciscan Institute, who we always work together with in St. Anthony's for issues against the environment and persons, Ms. Ramsa Hai, who's the coordinator of the St. Franciscan Institute, she reached out to St. Anthony's College for us to be able to get some students to write some spoken word poetry against human trafficking. A few of them were able to do so, but over the weekend, Yohan was the only one that was able to get his video done and submitted, and it was very well done. So much so that it was thought that he was a victim because he was so passionate about it in his performance. So it took a lot of working with him, but I must say he's very mature. It's a topic that he's very passionate about, so it wasn't that hard to get him to tap into that emotion and to tap into a story about someone who experienced human trafficking and what it could do to you in terms of the long-term effects.
All right, so let's go back to Yohan. Yohan, tell me a bit about that. Why did you connect so much with this particular issue to the extent that you were able to make this contribution, which is now gaining international attention? Why does it matter to you so much?
Well, in researching about human trafficking for this project, I started to develop a sense of understanding about the depth and seriousness of human trafficking. The way it affects victims, families, friends, and even as far as communities. And I would say, and inspired me to write this piece.
And as far as the journey into spoken word and poetry and so on, how did that come about? Was that because of this opportunity? Were you always interested in spoken word before?
It was mainly because of this mainly because of this. But
okay, all right, and it's okay. Don't worry about it, Yohan. You might be a little nervous. I think talking about it. You didn't appear nervous at all in the video. You sounded very confident, which was good to see. But let me bring the principal back into the discussion. He could probably explain it a lot better as to that sense of awareness. Principal Inniss, and showing that students, even at a relatively young age, are so conscious about what is going on around them and not just preoccupied with exams and whatever else is going on within the limits of the school environment.
Yeah, I mean, so Yohan brought that to the fore and creates that voice, you know, for other students to emulate. But we have always been exposing the students to items of environment and anything that would help change the thinking as they immerse themselves in society. So Yohan is a product of that sort of thinking, so that his work that he put in and the voice that he becomes a voice for students, not just in St. Anthony's, but in Trinidad and indeed in this case, the world.
And moving off from that, as a platform from that, you talked about the whole question of the education and the academic development of students. From what I understand, St. Anthony's College places a great emphasis on these other activities, you know, to make students more aware of what is going on around them, poetry and the arts and so much else, different cultural elements of their overall development are considered important at St. Anthony's as well.
Yes, we look at the music, the arts, any portrayal that will get the students into the depth of really who they are, getting them to express themselves is all part of, you know, the young male development at St. Anthony's College. And we use these things to, yes, help them be aware, but to create their voice as well.
And Christian Paul, a final thought from you as well. As we've seen over the years, and especially with the work of the Bocas Lit Fest and so on, and that spoken word has become very fashionable, has become very popular, especially among young people as an outlet for them to express their feelings, their frustrations, their hopes, their aspirations. How vibrant is the Poetry Club at St. Anthony's College?
Well, for you, it's so vibrant that from the time that I came here as an NALIS member of staff, the first collaboration was with the St. Franciscan Institute, because every year they would have a season of creation competition, which is based upon letting students speak up against injustices that's being done against the environment. And I really think that as a male, it is really important for us to be good mentors to the young men these days, So any way which we could collaborate with the young men to take a positive stand and have a positive voice against the issues that are going on. If it's through spoken word, if it's through music, if it's through the arts, if it's through dance, we are all for that for you, because we need to change the conversation and the representation of young men these days, especially on the national and international front.
And before I go to Yohan for a quick final word, just on that point, Christian Paul, is that what these young men discuss, the real relevant issues and are really focused on things beyond their own issues as far as the school environment? Are you hearing that sort of dialogue coming out in their contributions? Christian Paul?
I try to instigate it. So for example, these days people are complaining a lot. We live in a complaining society. But one thing about you, Fazira, I like is you are always someone that's proactive and wants to focus on how can we fix it? How can we be the change? So when I hear the conversations and the discourse going on, what you have to say about it? What Yohan forgot to say is that just a few months ago, for his SBA, he came to me with a poem that he wrote for his SBA for English. Normally the students would come to me to get a poem from the library. He wrote a poem. So I encouraged him as a young man that has a gift and a talent that he should nurture it. So I went in with this human trafficking initiative, and in a few days he wrote this piece on his own. So this was basically Yohan taking conversation and putting it on paper, and this has been the story of many other young men in the club. And it's really great to see what they are doing right now. Hats off to them, and thank you all this morning for shining a light on that. We need to see some more positivity.
Well, who knows, Christian Paul? Maybe the revolution may start at St. Anthony's College. It's not a bad place to start it as well. Thanks very much for taking the time. Let's leave a final word appropriately with Yohan Barrington. Yohan, finally, what would you like to say, just in brief, because of your concerns about human trafficking, what is your final message to our audience this morning? What would you like to say quickly to them, especially fellow young people like yourself, young men, as far as the issues of human trafficking? What would you like to say to them?
Well, I would like everyone to at least understand the message of my piece. It's to emphasize and get across the psychological and physical effects of human trafficking, and to show that it's a journey to break free from the shackles of that experience, and by highlighting these issues, it really helps to educate, or at least provide more information to my peers and anyone willing to listen. You know, I hope for at least the victims to show that they have that support, you know.
Which is very, very important. Yohan Barrington, Christian Paul, Maurice Inniss, congratulations to all associated with yourself and indeed St. Anthony's College for this commendable effort. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time to be with us this morning. Just after 7 o'clock in Trinidad and Tobago, which means we're past time for the news.